So you have to be aware this is not normal. So why are you pretending or acting like these events are normal? And so there's part of the New Age proponent that says, don't discuss it, then it won't happen. If you concentrate, it'll happen. Not exactly. Because in Florida, they have hurricane season, right? And those people in Florida, every time hurricane season comes, so they get the warning, they go to Home Depot, Lowe's, they get their plywood, they put it right up in the window, they go on for broke, they, how can I say, get their water, the grocery store is cleaned of shelves. Didn't they just prepare? Some people don't. Same thing for Katrina. Some left when they were given the opportunity, others stayed. But didn't they prepare? Didn't mean that they had to live in fear. They just prepared. In fact, holding fear pushes away any intuition or your psychic intuition. So I want you to have no fear. With all this knowledge, you'll know and be able to prepare, just like the people in Florida, for hurricanes. But notice who wasn't prepared. Staten Island. Because why were they going to worry about hurricanes? I told you that the earthquakes had changed. Now, you want to download Earthquake 3D. It's a free program. And you want to see, and it will always be set for the current day, like in one day, it'll show a 24-hour period. And it'll show the earthquakes in green when okay, we'll just jump here. This is Dutch Sense, and he does a phenomenal job. This is the program.
Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 2:58 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday, November 14th, 2012. And we're looking at Earthquake 3D, which is a USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes. You can see it, 6.1 just struck down here in Chile, and that was just about an hour ago. And I want to show you what's happened over the last 7 days and over the last 14 days, give you a good idea of what's been happening and what I think might be happening in the near-term future. So first off, 6.1, most recent earthquake. Now let me turn it down for the last 7 days. Okay, and we're going to see everything 2.5 and greater in the United States, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii, and internationally 4.0 and greater. And you can see the movement. It's tremendous. Okay, the Indo-Australian plate actually showing not much activity out here to see, but all around the border going north of Australia, north to Japan, and branching northwest across India, terminating in southern Europe and South Italy. And as we pass east, going across Alaska, down the west coast of the United States, down Central America. Okay, this is 6.0 and greater in the last 7 days. It's a huge amount of movement to occur. So we have a small amount of large earthquakes over on the West Pacific now, and compensation movement all up and down the east side of the Pacific. Now if I turn this down to 5.0s and greater, there we go, you can see the cluster points. Okay, so from Vanuatu west all the way to Sumatra, going north through Japan. So when we see 5.0s going all the way down to the South Pole, 5.0s curling all the way around the Pacific Plate, and then 6.0s all the way down the east side of the plate, and we're talking a lot of activity, guys. So we're looking at more than one per day now over the last 7 days. Noticeable silence up and down the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and in Europe. Not a lot of large earthquakes occurring there. We'll have to watch there for further movement now because the pressure is building. Now you'll notice a spot, lack of large earthquakes anywhere in the continental United States. This is a sign again of buildup. We're going to see some large earthquake movement here in the near term in the United States. It has to occur most likely on the west coast and along the edge of the North American craton. The edge goes from the Pacific Northwest down here to Texas and Louisiana, and curls right back up to the east coast, terminating up here in the northeast. U-shape across the continent of the United States needs to be prepared. And the states would be Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then the northeast. So Virginia and anywhere in this region that had the large earthquake last year that damaged the Washington Monument needs to be prepared now for possible further movement. Okay, now let me go ahead and show you something over the last 14 days. We're going to have to switch our feed here and go to the ANSS feed. The difference on this feed, it's going to show us everything 0.0 and greater in the United States and 4.0 and greater internationally. Now, I'm not concerned too much with the small earthquakes, but let's just look. Last 14 days, and we'll turn it all the way down. Okay, and the map becomes so cluttered, it becomes hard to navigate. And let me go ahead and turn these magnitudes off really quick so you can see the cluster points here in the United States so you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, the edge of the North American craton is highlighted by earthquakes, small earthquakes, right now. The 4.3 last week in Kentucky being the sizable one for the entire east portion of the craton. But you can see the areas in question, those are the areas we need to watch for further movement over the next several weeks because of this current activity. Now, we'll get rid of the smaller earthquakes and only go look at the large. First, let's start with 5.0 and greater. And we'll go ahead and turn these up and make sure this is at 5.0. There we go. So 14 days of 5.0s. Look at that. All right, I don't even have to show you the cluster points. You can just see it on the map and know where to watch, right? And you see the 7.4 that occurred here. Right before that, 7.7 up here in Canada. And that's off the map now, just over 14 days ago. So we have two 7.0s, multiple 6.0s, multiple 5.0s. All right, so let me pause it up here really quick. Let's go look at a few charts. Let's go look at Yellowstone, Pacific Northwest, and go check out Europe really quick. Okay, folks, I'll put a link down below for this so you guys can come over and see all the earthquake links. And we're going to go check out Yellowstone first. This is going to be on over at isthisthingon.org. And let's go look at the charts for yesterday. Okay, and across the park now, it looks relatively quiet compared to how things were over the past several weeks. It's actually silent at the park. Now, Madison River, of course, shows its typical daily activity. All right, you see what time it starts, what time it ends. It goes throughout the day. As the sun passes overhead, we start to see this earthquake activity. And this is everywhere. Across the entire world, whenever the sun is passing over, we start to see more earthquakes happen during the time from sunrise to sunset. This is not man-made activity. This is natural, and I believe it to be induced by the sun. That's something somebody should look into, I think, at some point. But let's go back a few days so you can see what it looked like last week when the activity was really intense. And it just seemed to terminate last week. Okay, here's a good shot of Mary Lake, for instance. You see Mary Lake last week. And let's come back to today. Quiet. This says to me we need to watch the park. Watch out for possible 5.0 activity or 4 to 5.0 activity. That's because of a buildup that's occurring, again, along the edge of the North American craton. So we just looked at that. Let's go look at the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. The area that I'd want to check would be anywhere down here to the south of Washington and central Oregon. There's a fresh lava field laid here off the coast, which we need to be aware of. That's been producing multiple 6.0 earthquakes over the last 12 months. So let's go check the Portland charts here. Okay, this one works, and you can see light earthquake activity, one actual sizable earthquake, and then background harmonics for multiple hours from 8 till 10, let's say. And let's back that out. Let's go look at another station here. Let's check up here in Washington. Okay, and again, you can see earthquake activity and multiple hours of light harmonic movement, and that's again most likely the lava off the coast of Oregon in the fresh volcanoes and the fresh rift that's formed out there. So if you want to go look that up, definitely some interesting reading on that. So now that we looked at Yellowstone and the Pacific Northwest, we can pretty much determine that there is a possible threat. Okay, there is light harmonic activity going off the west coast, and there's been a quieting off at Yellowstone, and no earthquakes along the entire North American craton of any sizable magnitude, that means we need to watch. So now that we looked at that, let's go check out Europe really quick. And I've come over here to the EMSC site, and this will give us our European quakes. Now be aware that the USGS and the EMSC and the Chinese agencies, Russian agencies, aren't really doing too much data sharing. So they're all doing their own earthquake monitoring. That's how you can get different magnitudes for the same quakes from different agencies. But this will give us a good view of the last 48 hours of earthquakes, and you can see it. Southern Europe, southern Italy, southern Greece, going over into Turkey and throughout the Middle East, a series of small earthquakes and mid-range earthquakes 4 to 5.0. Now you'll remember last year the 6.0 that struck here off the west coast of Israel, and then a possible military explosion, 8.8 registered earthquake last year in Libya, and then fracking earthquakes that occurred up here in North Italy that killed multiple people, and about 50 people that died down here in Spain in an earthquake just east of Gibraltar. Now, we also have other threats occurring out here in the Canary Islands down here to the south. We have the Azores out here to the west. Both are earthquake prone, and we kind of saw this die out last year, at the end of last year, start of this year, with the Canary Islands. So we need to watch that as well. If you live in Europe, there's a specific area to watch. That would be Poland, north of the Alps, in a diagonal line going down here, terminating at the southern earthquake in Spain. You can see, you can just connect the dots going from the Canaries up through Spain, right up here through Poland, and that's the area to watch, I would say, for the next 2 weeks for possible 5.0 movement. Anywhere in this region here, possibly North Italy at the fracking location, needs to be aware and prepared. Now, UK, you can see a small earthquake in the English Channel, anywhere to the east of England, through the English Channel, and then going north up here towards Iceland. Okay, anywhere along the mid-Atlantic ridge is prone right now. And we saw multiple large earthquakes occur up here near Iceland towards Greenland. So anywhere in this region here needs to watch for the next 2 weeks. And the reason I'm naming all these is, again, because of the amount of uptick that's occurred around the entire planet over the last 14 days is phenomenal. Now this is just 5.0 and greater. When I take it down one more notch, down to 4.0, it's tremendous. You really begin to get the idea of the amount of activity going on here. You can't even begin to see all the earthquakes on the map. These are again 4.0 and greater. If we bring in the smaller earthquakes, it becomes too many to see. So we take it 4.0, sizable and greater, and you really get the idea that we are in a state of tremendous unrest, and the time for a preparation plan is now. If you prepare now, food, water, transportation, communications, possibly self-defense, you will be 10 times better off than anybody else, most likely on your street or even in your neighborhood, because most people don't prepare for these things. They wait for them to happen. Once it happens, then they're left scrambling. East Coast was a perfect example of that with the hurricane. Okay, and that was just a storm. When we're talking about a large earthquake, we're talking about infrastructure damage that lasts for months, if not years. So all this being said, folks, what's causing this? Well, we're in a tremendous state of unrest due to several things. We've got the plate activity over here in Indo-Australia that literally has been confirmed to be breaking up. This is causing a spillover effect that's occurring all the way around the entire ring of fire. You can see the point of origin and see where it goes. And you can expect, if you live anywhere around the ring of fire, to see further large earthquake movement over the next several months. Until this dies out to the west, we are going to see large earthquakes to the east. Hang in there, folks. Be safe. Much love.